The crack of the rifle was deafening, echoing through the desolate landscape. One moment, the Tarvath officer stood tall, an emblem of alien arrogance. The next, a crimson spray erupted from his forehead, and he collapsed, a lifeless heap on the barren ground. Panic, raw and primal, rippled through the alien ranks. Their advanced sensors, designed to detect plasma and energy signatures, found nothing. Utter, terrifying silence followed, broken only by the frantic whispers of confused soldiers. Hello, my friends. Welcome to the Whispers of Time channel. Before we start, I hope you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so that you receive all the new content, and also share the story with your friends so it reaches as many people as possible. And if you have a story, write it in the comments. Maybe we'll choose one to narrate in the next video. Let's start the story. Pay attention, because there's a small detail that might change your entire perspective and awareness of life. So, listen, the Tarvath, right? They'd been checking us humans out for ages. Like years, man. They were all scientific and curious, but also kinda, looking down their noses at us. From their point of view, we were just some lucky species, all over the place, clumsy, laughably uncoordinated. Our soldiers were always fumbling with these old-school bullet guns, and our battlefields? Total chaos compared to their genetically enhanced, super-disciplined warriors. Every single simulation they ran, we lost. Decisively. What do you think, at that moment, what should the Tarvath have considered about humanity? Commander Zore, he was up in orbit, right? Just watching a human training ground through this super high-res display, his golden eyes all narrowed. He saw these two-legged creatures, us, tripping over each other, laughing, smacking each other on the helmets. Apparently, it was some kind of rough, friendly thing. Even our disciplined forces seemed careless to him, constantly getting distracted. Any Tarvath officer would have seen that as total incompetence. He even smirked, like, pathetic. These guys. No way they stand a chance against us. A junior officer, Talvec, totally agreed. They're a mess, he said. No energy weapons, no personal shields, and they're still stuck on those primitive, what do they call them, bullets? Zore just exhaled through his weird ridged nostrils. Foolish. Wasting all that kinetic energy instead of channeling plasma. No sophistication at all. This'll be over in a flash. They picked this human colony, Echo 7, for their first little military outing. Just a remote outpost, small garrison, probably couldn't put up any serious fight. The plan was simple: land, show 'em who's boss, and make the humans surrender before anyone else could even react. It was basically a ceremony, a statement. The Tarvath were going to show how superior they were, and humanity would just fall in line, just like every other species before us. So, the order went out. Warships, sleek and shining, just glided through the atmosphere, their reflective hulls scattering sunlight like crazy. Ground forces deployed, super-tight formations, their exoskeleton armor glinting as they moved with this perfect, synchronized precision. Their landing, flawless, effortless. No resistance at first. Just silence. And the soft hum of wind through these steel structures. Then, crack. That first shot, man, it just ripped through the air. You see, Master Gunnery Sergeant Travis Mallister? He was lying prone, hidden in this rocky outcrop just outside the colony's perimeter. His rifle was pressed against his shoulder. He'd watched the Tarvath deploy, seen their arrogance, their perfectly straight lines, their unwavering confidence. Travis. He had a simple rule. He didn't trust anyone who walked in straight lines during a firefight. His spotter, Corporal Harris, whispered over the comms, 2 clicks out. Wind steady. Picking a target. Travis lined up his shot, the scope's reticle dead center on an officer who stood there with this posture, man, like only someone who'd never been shot could manage. The alien's armor shimmered, the insignia on his chest screaming, important. Mallister exhaled slowly, finger on the trigger. He pulled. Crack. The sound got swallowed by the distance, but the effect? Unmistakable. The Tarvath officer dropped, a neat crimson hole right in his forehead. His subordinates. They froze. Confused. What do you think the Tarvath were thinking at that moment? Then the second shot rang out. Panic. It just ripped through the Tarvath ranks. They started scanning, looking for energy signatures, weapon discharges, anything to find their attacker. But there was nothing. Their battlefield sensors, designed for plasma and heat, came up blank. "Where did that come from?" one Tarvath soldier barked. Zore's lip curled. He tapped his wrist device, commanding the system to check for threats. Clean feed. No drones, no hidden bases, no snipers. He opened the command frequency, voice sharp. "Report." "What's happening?" "Their weapon," a soldier's voice crackled through the comms. "It doesn't register on our sensors." "Impossible." Zore clenched his fists. He turned to Talvec. "We train for plasma resistance, energy shielding. These savages are using, what, chemical propulsion. That technology is ancient." Another shot. A Tarvath lieutenant dropped mid-sentence. The formation broke. Soldiers, conditioned for tight, efficient squads, hesitated. Uncertainty, man, it just crept into their movements. Travis smiled to himself. "You see that one? Didn't even get to finish his order." Harris snorted. "Bet you $5 they start running in circles soon." $5. Travis adjusted his scope. "What kind of lowball bet is that?" "Make it 20. Another shot. Chaos. Pure chaos erupted. The Tarvath, totally unused to an enemy they couldn't even detect, started making mistakes. Some just abandoned formation, scattering for cover. Others fired blindly into the distance, their plasma bolts scorching empty ground. Zore's hands clenched. "Find them. Now." His soldiers activated defensive protocols, recalibrating their helmets for kinetic projectiles. It was useless. The human sniper was already gone, repositioning, shifting his vantage point, anticipating their next move. Another body hit the dirt. The commander's pulse spiked. He had not expected this level of resistance. Human weapons were primitive, yeah, but their lethality? Undeniable. And their tactics? They didn't fight like honorable warriors. They didn't stand there and fight head-on. They disappeared, struck without warning, and laughed while doing it. Mallister's voice crackled through the colony comms. "This is too easy. They really think fancy armor makes them invincible." Harris smirked. They weren't ready for a good old American ass-whoopin'. Another officer fell. Talvec, visibly shaken, turned to Zore. "Sir, these are not normal soldiers." The commander's jaw tightened. "Then what are they?" Talvec swallowed. "Predators." Mallister exhaled, chambering another round. The Tarvath were starting to retreat. Not some organized, tactical withdrawal. This was genuine, primal fear. They weren't prepared for this. They'd never fought an enemy who killed from the shadows, who cracked jokes while delivering death. And the sniper? He wasn't done yet. Another shot. The last remaining Tarvath officer's helmet shattered, sending his body sprawling. Silence. Zore's breath was unsteady. He just stared at the devastation. One human. One soldier had totally dismantled his landing force. This wasn't how it was supposed to go down. This wasn't how humans were supposed to fight. A voice crackled through their universal channel, cutting through the quiet. "Y'all sure you don't want to surrender? I'd hate to waste more bullets." Mallister leaned back, stretching his arms. "Man," he said, grinning, "I love my job." The battlefield was silent, except for the faint hum of Tarvath armor servos and that occasional crack of a sniper rifle. Zore knelt beside the body of his fallen officer, his ridged hands tightening into fists. He'd fought in 100 campaigns across the galaxy, crushed rebellions, laid waste to planets, quelled entire civilizations with ruthless efficiency. Yet here, on some barren rock of a human colony, his forces were being whittled down, one, by an unseen enemy wielding primitive ballistic weapons. The worst part? He couldn't even see the bastard. "Adjust visors. Scan every possible vantage point," he barked, his voice sharp with controlled fury. "Our enemy is using a kinetic weapon. Track the trajectory. Find him." Talvec hesitated. "Sir, we already tried. The bullet is too small, too fast. It doesn't leave an energy signature. We can't detect it." Zore turned his golden gaze toward the younger officer. Are you telling me we, a species that has conquered 5 solar systems, are losing to a single primitive with a toy? Another shot rang out, snapping through the thin air like a whip crack. A Tarvath soldier, crouched behind cover, collapsed backward, a red mist hanging in the air where his head had been. The others scrambled, desperately seeking protection behind the very same structures they had mocked as flimsy minutes before. Zore's stomach tightened. This was worse than he thought. He'd assumed human resistance would be a minor inconvenience, some inefficient nuisance quickly dealt with by his superior troops. Instead, his men were unraveling before his eyes, their discipline breaking under the weight of something they could neither see nor counter. A voice crackled over the open channel, its tone light, almost amused. "Hey, boss alien. You ever play whack-a-mole? Y'all are real bad at it." Zore's brow furrowed. The voice belonged to the human sniper, the same one who had systematically dismantled his forces with unsettling precision. The tone wasn't that of a hardened, desperate soldier. It was casual, almost playful. That infuriated him. He pressed his communicator. "You hide in the shadows, coward. You pick off my warriors like a scavenger." A dry chuckle answered him. "That's cute. You think this is hunting, buddy? This is pest control." Zore gritted his teeth. He motioned toward his remaining troops, signaling a coordinated advance. They had the numbers. They had the technology. They would overwhelm the human with sheer force if necessary. Advance. Sweep the area. The Tarvath soldiers, now weary but still driven by discipline, began moving. They spread out in a loose formation, hugging cover, their weapons scanning for any hint of movement. Each step was measured, their usual confidence replaced by uneasy caution. Zore activated a drone swarm, a dozen small, hovering reconnaissance units designed to detect enemy positions. The small orbs fanned out, scanning every ridgeline, every shadow, every possible sniper nest. For a moment, silence stretched across the battlefield. Then, one of the drones exploded mid-air. A second later, another dropped, its casing ruptured by an unseen force. Mallister's voice hummed over the comms again. "Your little floaty things ain't helping, bud." Zore inhaled sharply. He was being toyed with. He didn't understand this kind of warfare. Tarvath battles were fought in open fields, with grand armies clashing in glorious combat, precision formations executing masterful strategies. They were not accustomed to a single enemy dictating the entire pace of battle from a position they couldn't even locate. Another shot. Another soldier down. A Tarvath warrior broke. He let out a guttural cry, his voice laced with something Zore had never expected to hear from one of his own men: fear. The soldier turned to flee. A shot found his spine before he made it 3 steps. The remaining warriors stiffened, their instincts screaming at them to retreat, to escape this unseen predator. They weren't prepared for this. None of them were. Talvec's voice came low, urgent. "Sir, we must fall back." Zore rounded on him. "We do not retreat. Sir, we are dying." Zore refused to accept it. This was not how a battle unfolded. There were rules, structures, predictable patterns of engagement. This was something else. It was chaos. It was one man unraveling an entire invasion force with a single rifle and a well-placed vantage point. A voice cut through the comms again. "All right, let's make this interesting." Zore felt his blood chill. There was a brief silence, then a sudden, sharp explosion erupted near the Tarvath position. Not a sniper shot. A grenade. Mallister had changed tactics. He was forcing them to move. As the dust settled, the aliens scrambled, breaking formation entirely. Zore realized with growing horror what the human had done. He had spent the last hour sniping, not just to kill, but to manipulate them into positions he wanted them in. He had forced them into cover, made them cluster together, and now he was flushing them out like cornered prey. A rapid succession of shots followed, each one perfectly timed, each one dropping a soldier who had just been forced from safety. Panic took hold. The Tarvath no longer fought with discipline. They fired wildly into the open, desperate to hit something, anything. Mallister laughed. "Jesus, you guys really weren't ready for this, huh?" Zore's breath came sharp, his chest rising and falling with barely contained rage. He had lost nearly an entire company of his best warriors to one human. He tapped his communicator. "Deploy the Omega." Talvec stiffened. "Sir, that suit. We have no choice." A low rumble filled the air as a drop pod slammed into the ground, dirt and debris scattering on impact. A moment later, the pod doors hissed open, revealing the towering figure inside. The Omega-class battlesuit. 7 feet of reinforced Tarvath armor, enhanced reflex augmentations, kinetic absorption plating. A soldier piloted the suit from within, encased in an exoskeletal frame designed to withstand anything short of orbital bombardment. A deep metallic voice growled through the external speakers. "I will find him." Zore's shoulders relaxed slightly. The Omega was their trump card. A single warrior inside that suit could slaughter a battalion. The human would have nowhere to hide. The sniper's voice returned, still amused, still so damn smug. "Oh, you brought out the big guy." Zore smirked. "You should surrender. That suit is impenetrable." There was a pause, a brief, almost thoughtful silence. Then Mallister spoke again. "Guess I'll have to get creative." A single shot rang out. The Omega-class battlesuit took a step forward, then stopped. For a long, frozen moment, nothing happened. Then the suit collapsed forward, crashing onto the ground in a lifeless heap. Zore's heart stopped. Talvec whispered, "How?" Mallister sighed. "Well, I was savant that shot, but turns out you guys put a cooling vent right under the chin. Not your best design choice." Zore's grip tightened so hard his claws dug into his palms. He had never lost a battle before. Never. Until now. Until this. He turned, giving the only order he never thought he'd have to give. "Fall back." The retreat order sent shockwaves through the Tarvath ranks. It was a command that had never been spoken before in their empire's history, a phrase unthinkable to a species that had crushed every opponent they had faced. Yet here they were, abandoning the battlefield, their once proud formations reduced to scattered remnants scrambling for evacuation points. Zore moved with them, his golden eyes burning with fury. He could still hear the human's voice over the open channel, taunting, amused, and worse, completely at ease. This was not the voice of a soldier merely following orders. This was the voice of a predator that knew the hunt was over before it even began. Mallister leaned back in his sniper's nest, stretching his arms with a satisfied sigh. "Well, that was fun. They don't make invasions like they used to." Harris's voice crackled over comms. "Jesus, you see 'em run? Thought these guys were supposed to be tough." Travis adjusted his rifle scope, watching as the Tarvath scrambled into their drop ships, their once pristine retreat devolving into a chaotic, desperate evacuation. He smirked. "Yeah, turns out they don't like playing tag when they're the ones getting tagged." The sight of the Omega battlesuit, its lifeless bulk sprawled across the battlefield, had broken the aliens completely. They had put all their faith in that thing, an unstoppable war machine, and yet it had taken one well-placed bullet to bring it down. Not a missile, not an orbital strike. Just a single, deliberate shot from a man with patience and a rifle. Word traveled fast across human military channels. Chatter erupted as reports of the engagement spread. One sniper had single-handedly decimated an entire Tarvath strike force. By the time the first fleet arrived in orbit, the battle was already over. The enemy was gone. It didn't take long for the legend to begin. Mallister had always been good at his job. He had spent years in war zones, honing his craft. But this was different. He wasn't just another Marine anymore. He was something else. It started as whispers, the phantom of Echo 7. The one-man war. The sniper that broke the Empire. Across the galaxy, among war councils and strategy briefings, the Tarvath name for him began to spread, the unseen death. Zore, humiliated and enraged, sat in the Tarvath War Council chamber, surrounded by his superiors. The Emperor's holographic form loomed above them, his voice sharp with disbelief. "You are telling me that an entire tactical force was defeated by one human?" Zore stiffened, his throat dry. He was not an ordinary human. The Emperor's gaze burned through the transmission. "Explain." Zore clenched his fists. He wanted to say it had been a fluke. He wanted to say that Mallister had relied on luck, on some unforeseen variable that had tipped the battle unfairly. But he couldn't. The truth was undeniable. He fought like nothing we've encountered before, Zore admitted. Not through brute strength, not through technology. Through patience. Precision. He turned the battlefield into a weapon. The War Council murmured in uneasy tones. This was not the way of the Tarvath. They had always believed in direct superiority. Numbers, firepower, sheer overwhelming force. This human had made a mockery of that philosophy. The Emperor's voice was quiet but sharp. "And if we send another army?" Zore exhaled slowly. "Then he will kill them one by one. And he will enjoy it." Across the galactic network, other species took notice. The Tarvath were not known for retreating. Their conquests were legendary, their dominance undisputed. But now there was an exception. And that exception was a single human with a rifle. Among the mercenary factions, the whispers grew louder, the unseen death was real. Among the warlords, the lesson was clear: do not make an enemy of the humans. Among the allied species, respect for Earth's forces skyrocketed. And among the humans themselves, the response was as predictable as it was ridiculous. Travis sat in the corner of a military outpost bar, nursing a beer while his fellow Marines crowded around a holoscreen, watching a news broadcast. "Earth sniper alone stops alien invasion." A younger Marine whistled. "Damn, Gunny, you're famous. They even made a whole damn infographic about you." Travis took a sip, unimpressed. "Oh yeah. What's it say?" The Marine smirked, reading aloud. "Master Gunnery Sergeant Travis Mallister, responsible for over 70 confirmed kills in a single battle, caused the first-ever full-scale retreat of the Tarvath Empire. Considered the deadliest sniper in the known galaxy. Currently listed as a military asset under extreme security clearance." He raised a brow. "Dude, you're a classified threat level now." Travis shrugged. Nate Harris grinned, slapping him on the back. Come on, man. You just embarrassed an entire alien empire. That's gotta feel good." Travis tilted his beer, considering it. "I mean, it's pretty funny." The bartender leaned over, smirking. "Drinks are on the house for the unseen death." Travis groaned. "You people are really running with that name." A Marine nearby chuckled. "Man, you better get used to it. You're a goddamn legend now." Outside of the bar, the stars stretched endlessly across the sky. Somewhere out there, in the depths of space, the Tarvath Empire licked its wounds, reeling from the first true defeat they had ever suffered. And across every military channel, one thing became clear: you did not start a war with humans. Not if they had a sniper watching. The War Council chamber of the Tarvath home world was silent, the kind of silence that came not from discipline, but from fear. Seated at the head of the grand obsidian table, Emperor Vorkos's piercing golden gaze burned into the gathered generals and war strategists. No one dared speak. The weight of their failure clung to the air like a suffocating fog. Across the chamber, holographic displays looped footage of Echo 7's aftermath. Dead Tarvath soldiers, a battlefield abandoned in disgrace, the wreckage of the Omega-class battlesuit. And the worst of them all, the sniper, a single human who had turned the entire invasion force into a cautionary tale. The Emperor's voice was low and even, which made it all the more terrifying. "Explain, Zore." Zore, his usual confidence reduced to measured restraint, inhaled carefully before responding. "The humans are not what we expected." The Emperor's fingers drummed against the table. "No, they are not." Across the galaxy, the story of the battle had spread like wildfire. The Tarvath, once an unstoppable force, had been halted. Not by an armada, not by a superweapon, but by a single marksman with a rifle. Fear crept into places it had never touched before. Empires that had once laughed at Earth's chaotic, unpredictable ways now reconsidered their stance. Human technology was still crude by many galactic standards, but it was no longer the technology that worried them. It was the mind behind the trigger. It was the patience, the lethal efficiency, the fact that a lone soldier had turned a battlefield into his personal hunting ground. The Emperor turned his gaze to Talvec. "And you?" The younger officer hesitated before speaking. "Sir, the humans are not like us. We underestimated their weapons, their tactics. But most of all, we underestimated their cruelty. Zore's jaw tightened. It was not cruelty. Talvec's brow furrowed. Sir, the commander. Zore exhaled sharply. It was not cruelty. It was precision. His voice carried none of the disdain he had once held for humanity. There was no derision now, no arrogant dismissal. The humans did not waste a single bullet. They did not fire in anger. They fired because it was necessary, because it was calculated. That is not cruelty. That is something far worse. The Emperor studied him for a long moment before speaking again. And what, Zore, do you suggest we do? Zore, for the first time in his life, lowered his head, and something dangerously close to humility. We do not fight them again. The silence that followed was deafening. The Tarvath were conquerors. They had never retreated, never cowered. But now their highest-ranking warlord was suggesting they never engage the humans in battle again. The Emperor let the weight of those words settle before standing. His golden robes shimmered under the chamber's artificial light. Then so be it. The War Council dispersed, but the unease remained. A new name had been etched into the history of the galaxy, and it was spoken in hushed tones even among the most powerful, the unseen death. On Earth, the reaction was predictable. The footage of the battle had been analyzed, discussed, turned into memes, and even edited into ridiculous highlight reels. A particularly popular one played the audio of Mallister's voice over an old Western theme with the caption, "When you bring laser swords to a gunfight." Mallister hated it. He sat at the far end of a dimly lit bar, nursing a drink while the news flickered on the holoscreen above him. Reports of the Tarvath retreat, of diplomatic murmurs from other alien empires who were suddenly very interested in negotiating with humanity. A week ago, humans were seen as a minor power at best. Now they were a threat. Harris slid onto the stool next to him, grinning. "They're calling you a legend, Gunny." Travis groaned. "That's the problem." Harris snorted. "You act like you don't love it." Travis took a slow sip of his drink. The second you become a legend, people start expecting things. More battles. More wars. Bigger targets. And I'm not interested in making this my damn full-time job. Harris clapped him on the back. "Yeah, but you gotta admit, you did something big. You changed the whole damn game." Travis sighed. He didn't want to change the game. He had just wanted to win the fight in front of him. But now the galaxy saw humans differently. No longer just unpredictable. No longer just odd. Now they were predators. The holoscreen flickered again, showing a live broadcast from the United Earth Military Command. A high-ranking official was speaking, his voice measured but filled with undeniable weight. The Tarvath Empire has officially withdrawn from all contested space. They have agreed to cease hostilities with Earth indefinitely. The official paused, then continued, "Furthermore, several galactic factions have reached out to request new treaties with humanity. Some out of respect, others out of fear." Harris let out a low whistle. "Damn, you scared them straight." Travis shook his head. "I didn't do anything special." Harris grinned. "Tell that to the Tarvath. They're probably having nightmares about you." Travis smirked. "Good." He finished his drink and stood, stretching his arms. He could already feel the weight of expectation settling on him. More aliens would come eventually. Some to talk, some to challenge, some to try to prove that humans weren't as dangerous as the stories claimed. And when that day came, well, Travis Mallister would be waiting, rifle in hand, scope calibrated, and locked onto his next target. And with that, we have reached the end of the story, but stories don't end here. If you like the story, don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel so you receive all the new content. And if you have an opinion or something that caught your attention, leave a comment and let's discuss together. I'm waiting for your opinions, and see you in the next story. Bye.